Hello.
Hi, Journeyers.
Happy
Hi.
Monday, Journeyers.
It's Monday. It's Monday. It's me, Shannon, and
And
that's
Emily. And
that's
it's time for on and off the topic, where we have a topic and then we on and off it.
we do on and off it. Our monthly topic is risk.
Mm-hmm.
Our yearly topic is
Exploration.
exploration. And I've got a thing for us today. I've got a thing. This is it. Ooh, risk.
It says on stage. It looks like we are putting other players at risk. What does this look like off stage? And what do we learn from being on both sides? Ooh, excellent question.
Thanks.
I think
Yeah.
it's funny because when we say it looks like we're putting other players at risk, I feel like that's one of those things that other people who aren't improvisers say, like that
Right.
it's so
Right.
scary.
And so I feel like we need to take a little bit of time defining risk, or at least defining what it looks like. I know you love to define a thing, and I knew you would love to define what this was, but we need to take a little bit of time, defining risk, and then what we're talking about when we say, well, we're putting that person at risk. And I think we go defining it first. How would you
Yeah.
define? Yeah, let's define risk.
Yeah, I would
Define
say
it.
risk is something where not only are you not positive of the outcome, but that the outcome could be ultimately have a negative impact on something, on
Yes.
you, on your friends, on the environment. Yeah.
So I would go further in like just teeter tottering in that negative impact, where yes, one, we don't know the outcome, and the risk usually is it could be either or, like have a negative or a positive impact. And I think that's important to say, just because when we do think about risk, traditionally, we always think about the negative impact that it's going to have. We focus, how about that? We focus on the negative, and we tend, whether that's jobs or relationships or whatever, we tend to focus on what could happen negatively
Mm-hmm.
and not what could happen positively. And so let's take that idea and move it to on stage, because I feel like we learn as improvisers, or we practice this practice or thought, that when we put someone, quote, at risk, there we are doing so because we believe that there's a positive outcome, that there will be a positive outcome, and that positive outcome looks like laughter. That positive outcome looks like uplifting or highlighting our partner's skill, right? But we're still putting them in this situation that they have to struggle a little bit to showcase those things or to receive that laughter. But there's this joy, this beauty of, hey, I'm about to set you up for this thing. We all pretty much understand that it's going to have an outcome. It's going to have an outcome of some sort, negative, positive. But what we're all here to do, including the audience, is to watch you struggle through that, watch you and support you in struggling through that situation or risk. And I feel like we need to, I'm talking about it, we need to have some sort of example.
Well, I think one good example from like you and I performing together, right? You don't necessarily like singing, right?
Not necessarily.
And yet there are some times where I'd be like, why don't you sing about it? And you are engaging in, I mean, I'm putting you at a little bit of a risk, or
Yes.
a little bit of risky behavior because you might. We haven't talked about why you don't like singing.
Well, I'm not here. So this is great. This is perfect, right? So I'm in general, like just singing in general. Give me a Disney tune, done. We're singing all the time. Give me some karaoke and a Disney tune, finished. It's over. I'm up on stage. Give me a topic and random sort of accompaniment and expect that there's going to be sort of a rhythm and a chorus and a wrap up. That's a lot of pressure.
Right. And so that's the thing, is that your so the potential negative outcome is that you might
completely
not be able to put together a song.
Right.
So I'm sorry, go ahead. What is it?
Completely embarrass my face.
Completely embarrass your face. See, by the way, I'm just gonna like put a little if this wasn't like a live thing, if we pre-recorded these, I would put something right here that says all of us feel this way.
Right.
even you, Shannon Stott, you're brilliant, and you're still having these moments of like, but anyway, so in that example, we would be engaging in a risky behavior. I would be forcing you to engage in a behavior that feels risky to you. And I would be doing that because we enjoy the play that goes with that. Like,
right.
We ultimately know, and in your head, even though it doesn't feel like it in the moment, that even if you don't make a perfect song, it's still going to be fine, and we are still going to be here for you.
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes those moments are the most magical, I think.
That's right. And there's such a big lesson in that, because as improvisers, we learn that we are taking risk all the time, because the nature of creating something on the spot with another person is taking a risk. I'm going to put out this tomato. I'm thinking garden. You're thinking dragon, tomato eating dragon.
Yeah.
All the time. Right. So there's a risk. How do we tell this story together as we put these offers out there one at a time? When we're learning that in improv, because the stakes are low, we're learning that it's okay suddenly to be put in that situation and to struggle through. And what you said, what is amazing about that is we also learned that the struggle is worth getting to the end result, because the end result may be magical. It may just be that somehow, some way, I get verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, or whatever a song structure is, right? Somehow I get there. And then we've all done that together. We've all helped and seen, and I've relied on the keyboardist or the audience to help me with words, all of those things. When we take that mentality and we put it off stage, if I can remember, okay, here is the risk that I'm taking, whatever that risk is. What do I know about, especially, let's get back to this, right? Because this particular conversation isn't just about, I'm just taking risks. It's about, how do we set people up to take a risk? Is it possible to nudge a person to take a risk? And why would we do that? And what do we learn? Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. And I think a good thing to keep in mind here is that we all kind of have to do this little, exactly what we're saying, where there's like could be a good outcome. We all have to kind of do like a little bit of a risk benefit analysis in our brain, really, right? Because sometimes putting someone at risk where the stakes are, where the benefit is not great, or there's a higher likelihood of like the consequences being very bad, it's not great. I would not say, like, if we were at I don't know, if there was some sort of situation where I was like, Shannon, you can make up a song, it's fine. And it's in like if we're in like one of those groups that only does musical improv and all they do is make up these brilliant, beautiful things, I then wouldn't be like, go ahead.
Shannon, do it. You show them what you've got.
Yeah. Because that wouldn't be fair, right? That could lead the benefit of that is not great. So likewise in real life, we kind of want to find those moments where we're pushing someone a little bit out of their comfort zone, but we know that the reward can be great and the potential negative effects are lower, right?
Yes.
It's just a little bit of risk.
And we're talking also when we're on stage, we know the parameters, at least. Like, okay, who am I playing with? We know something about the person that we are playing with, and we know some of the structure in which we are playing. We know what the sandbox is, what the playground looks like. So we keep those things in mind when we are setting somebody else up for success, right? Or we're setting them up for struggle, a little bit of struggle, pushing them out of their comfort zone. I'm specifically thinking about, I know this is low risk, right? Specifically think about when my husband makes pizza, either on the grill or now he's using the smoker, very fancy smoked pizza. I know. Ooh, I'm
very jealous.
It's lots of fun. But the last time we did it, all the pizzas were like delicious, delicious. The first, second, third, and probably I think the fourth time that I put him at risk in these situations because we were having people over. I was like, look, you grill, right? Let's grill pizzas. How hard could it be? It turned out it's very difficult. We ended up with a lot of burnt crusts, a lot of pretend calzones, just a lot of just gooey mess. But in that process, what I knew was some of the parameters. I know he is proficient at the grill. I know I am proficient at the cell. Like, hey, it's okay. Everybody, just give us a minute. Right? We've got this down. And the stakes are low, right? Like, we can order a pizza. We can eat frozen pizza. We can do a lot of different things. But we want to try a little something new, a little something different. And it was worth it by this time, like by this fifth time that we did it. Now we have an idea of, we talk to people, we're, okay, you got to use all sorts of different flours and things like that. But yeah, there was a benefit that was high once we got it right.
Yeah. And I think, in thinking about in the real world, pushing other people outside their comfort zones, I think that's a really cool and important part of like a strong relationship, right? Like because I think we do want to be careful about being like, you partner, go do this thing you're uncomfortable with because I think it'll be delicious.
Right.
But I think there's a difference between that and like, challenging each other to try something new or to have a new experience, right? I'm trying to think of like an example in my own life. The first example I could think of like putting my husband in a risky situation because he's such an introvert is when we came to visit you in Texas. And you and I had a day together, and I was like, let's send the husbands off. And this was the first time they had met. Yes. But I knew that I knew that they would get along very well. We both knew. We were like,
this is going to be great.
And my husband came back and he said, I think I want to marry Gus. He loves him. And so
So good.
and so like it was nice to like kind of push him to have like a little bit different experience. But I would never be like, okay, introvert, now you come
Right.
be on stage and like you come do.
No, 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 no,
Uh,
no.
on the flip side, like, like he challenges me to do things all the time, right? Like we cook together frequently. I do not enjoy that. Uh, I that is risky to me. I'm afraid that I'm going to ruin a meal. And
Mhm.
he will kind of like push me to, you know, try cooking. Here's a recipe.
Right, right. Like in the talk about relationships, it also veers into talks about teams, right? And our team, and the improv on and off the stage team, and the risks that we've taken and pushed each other. Okay, we need to pull back on this. I want you to talk more about the science behind. I want you to talk more about the therapy behind what all the things that we're talking about. And it can be very even risky. It feels risky, even our approach to improv, right, and how we think about it and its uses and its benefits is very different from theaters all over the nation and the world. uh, and we're taking a little bit of a risk as a team, putting ourselves in a different box and still being under the umbrella of improv.
Yeah. And then when we ask people to come in our workshops, right?
Mm-hmm.
We,
Mm-hmm.
because, we ask people regardless of your improv history, like it doesn't, if you've had 20 years or 20 minutes of improv, like you are welcome in our class. And I feel like we ask, depending on those different levels, I think we ask different risks, right? For someone who's
Mm-hmm.
brand new, we are asking them to kind of, to again, like to start speaking in front of people or learn to accept failure. For people who've been doing this for 20 years, we ask to don't worry about doing good improv in
Right,
this class.
right,
That's not what this is for. This is for life,
right.
not stage.
Yeah, I want to talk about us in that situation, right? Because we're talking about what does it look like off stage, yes, but what do we learn from being on both sides? And for the person who is taking on the risk or being asked to be uncomfortable, right? There is a trust that has to occur between that person and whoever is requesting, right? I
Mm-hmm.
have to trust that the person who is requesting me to step into this risky situation, I have some either rapport with, or the situation that I'm in calls for everyone to be trusting each other. And I think about that on the other side, we as a team, when we are asking improvisers to step out of their improv zone, or we're asking non-improvisers to step into an improv zone, there are things that we consciously do very quickly in our classes and workshops, like breathing exercises and walking, and yes, names, but less of names and a little bit about who we are, deeper exploration about who we are and how we show up in this space. And then on top of that, what we're willing to offer that day and that moment and in that hour, and what what roads we're not willing to go down. And these really help us to build that stability
Mm-hmm.
and groundedness, so that when we are now asking, okay, now we're asking you to do these things, you have built a little bit of trust with us, that we're not just pulling from the air asking you to be a dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do that not only through exercises, but also through, I mean, we're generally pretty explicit about like, this is the thing that we're going to do, and this is why it's important, and this is why it matters. I think about that a lot professionally when I work with teams of direct care staff, direct caregivers, and people. I do some improv games with them to help them, apply these skills to real life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of them, they're like, why? Why are we here? And so that requires the trust of not only like getting to know me and know that I'm not like, some rando off the street, but also the trust of like, hey, this relates to our job because
Mm-hmm.
and this relates to how you function as a human being because blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's the same when I'm facilitating for
Mm-hmm.
for larger organizations and they're doing team building and why are we here? Getting them to trust each other and then to trust themselves and also to trust the situation in which we're in, the company itself. We could talk so man, we could go down so many roads with that. But I wonder in the minutes that we have left, let's talk about what to do when you are being asked to take a risk on stage and off. But when the opportunity is presenting itself from another person and there is you're asking me to take this risk. What are some of the things that we need to think about before we step into that?
I think it's important to first do kind of our own risk benefit analysis, right? Because as much as the other person might have a really like a perfect grip on what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
or they might not know that something is going on inside of you, right? Whether it is maybe I set you up for a scene and ask you to sing a song, but surprise, the theme of whatever scene or the events that are happening is way too close to something that is very painful in your real life that
Mm-hmm.
you are not ready to explore in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's number one. In real life, that situation could be something like my husband asks me to cook something, and my hip is acting up again, and it's difficult for me to stand for long periods of time, right? He doesn't know that. So I think we need to make sure that we're verbalizing that sort of thing,
That we are analyzing that and that we are voicing it, right? And that we are voicing it in on stage, analyzing it. It can feel really embarrassing to be set up for something and not want to do it, but feel like you have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are ways, just even in just saying, yeah, let this music play, I'll talk through it, or let's advance to 2 minutes after I sang that song. Great, everybody clap because it was so good.
Right, exactly. There are ways around it. I think I'm sure we've said this before, that yes and does not mean yes you must. Is not it's not a substitute for consent. That's a whole other thing, but it's important to repeat all the time. Yes and does not mean you must. Is not a substitute for consent. So there's that. And then also, so then if we realize that, the risk isn't the risk benefit analysis that works out, this can be fine. This isn't going to be terrible. We need to make sure that we're leaning not just on ourselves and our own skills, but also the person who set us up for that thing. And trust that they're just not going to be like, okay, go do this thing. Bye.
Right. They're going to stick around.
Yeah.
There's that. It's really important to me to teach, or at least to support, this idea that you are doing something together. So yes, on stage, I may be setting you up for this song or this scene or this speech or whatnot, but I'm not going to leave you here. I'm going to be another character. I'm going to clap for you. I'm going to encourage the crowd. I'm going to play my role, just like your husband plays his role. He's encouraging you to cook, yes, but I'm sure he's also doing something around that in that environment that helps you feel comfortable, right? Yes, please put these pizzas in the in the smoker or on the grill. It's something completely out of our, like, we don't know how, but I'm going to manage our guests. I'm going to manage the other things that people can eat in case we completely burn this thing to the ground. And in teams, when we're working in teams, this is like off stage, we also need this attitude. Improv helps us to really recognize that that person who is the salesperson, management of sales, isn't by themselves in sales management. Whoever I am doing something that is also supporting them, so that when I ask them to do something that seems out of their comfort zone, that feels to them like a risk, they know that I am supporting them in my role as well. We learned this in improv. Take an improv class. Take one.
That is why we're here. And yeah, and so I think, again, on both sides of that, if you're the one setting someone up to get out of the comfort zone, don't walk away.
Yeah. Yes.
Then it's something different. Right. Like that's a whole different thing that you're doing to them.
Yeah, that's the one. Like, check in continuing to answer that part of the question. When you're being offered something, can you do it? Check internally. And then I feel like second is check externally. Check your team. Who's asking you to do this? How do you feel comfortable with that person? What is the history, right, of this person asking you to do things? Because we do, as humans, sometimes have I'm like thinking about siblings, but we do as humans have this thought like, oh, every time that person has asked me to do something, it's worked out poorly for me, but this time I'm sure it'll work.
Yeah.
Like, why do we do that?
Fool me once. Yeah. I have a group of friends who we love to prank each other for various things. It would be something like, we're in a space and then one of us has to go to the bathroom right before we leave. And so everyone will go outside and like hide in the bushes and pretend like we're gone. Right. And so like, and that's the sort of thing that we all know at this point is going to happen. And so when we go to the bathroom, we are taking a risk. Right. They're going to do something. One time, this was a group I was working with in a theater. So it was just us in the building. One time I went to the bathroom. They literally put these like blocks in front of the bathroom door so that I had to like, not directly in the door. I could open the door, but that's all I could do was open it. So I had to like climb the blocks. So in that way, that's one of those things where we know that there's something silly that's going to happen, but it's not like upsettingly so, Yeah. But then also I know that I can't just go to the bathroom without having something happen when I come out.
That's, we'll say this as well, just to button it. There is you knowing that you can leave, something will happen, and you can still rise to the occasion of that thing. Yeah. And I think that's where in the minutes or in the thought process of what is risk and how do we manage it, just remember that we can think about it as something positive. We can rise to the occasion, or we can climb the wall.
we can climb over the blocks while your friends take pictures and put them on Facebook.
Oh my gosh, it's great. Okay, friends, journeyers, you've learned so much. Go go see if you can, help someone out of their comfort zone, someone and do that on and
Off the stage.
mwah.
Bye.
Bye.